You are listening to the Get Global Network podcast of the Ask Avani Show. You can hear the show live on Saturdays at 3 p.m. in London, 9 a.m. Central Time in the U.S. on SoMetro Radio, one of the original member stations of the Get Global Network.
The lessons I learned every day, without a doubt, I couldn't see how my life would change. Then you came along and showed me the way to better things.
A lot of people, obviously, it's going to be kind of, it's going to make their confidence, it's going to give their confidence a bit of a bashing, because they're thinking, why can't I learn to read or write properly? Is there something wrong with me? And I have noticed, though, that a lot of people that have had this problem, it's not that they can't read, it's just they may not have been given the encouragement or to get the education or stuff like that. So I'm thinking, okay, yes, it can leave people disadvantaged if they don't ever learn to read. But also I've noticed, especially if you are, you really want to conquer this little problem that you've got, and it's not a little problem, sometimes it's huge, then it can be character building, because it makes you want to do better, and it gives you motivation to say, right, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to learn. And just because I couldn't do it before doesn't mean I'm not going to be able to do it in the future. That's why I think I look at it like that. Can it be character building motivation? You see what I mean?
And I think it's something where it depends on the time in your life. Because I think there are stages to this. I think younger people, children, they may feel something is wrong because they can't read as well as some of their peers.
Yeah.
And so it does cause them to have a negative reaction. It causes them to be, I believe, withdrawn, and they don't interact as well. And some of them, I believe, it adds to them possibly being, bullying,
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they can be bullied because of it if people find out, or maybe they become a bully because, like when you see kids in a class and they're being disruptive.
Right.
Sometimes it's because they're really intelligent and they find the class boring. Other times I notice it's because they are behind and they want to act the class clown because it's boring to them. They're behind. They can't understand. They've had enough of trying, so they decide to disrupt other people, and they don't want no one to know that they're not able to keep up. So they start disrupting the class for others. I've noticed that's happened before.
Right, and I think that's why it's a age, in my opinion, it's an age related thing, because those people that are younger, their parents also, as a parent, I can understand if my sons were having a difficulty in any of their courses.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to recognize that. I'm supposed to pay attention to that. I'm supposed to help them and give them aid and find out if they have maybe some type of learning disability or something. That's my job as a parent.
Well, absolutely, but that's the thing as well, though. How would you be able to do that if your child is getting really adept at hiding these things? Because sometimes some parents don't have time to sit and read. When your child's a toddler, you might make a bit more time, but as they get older, you kind of almost expect them to be able to do things like that on their own. Like if they have like a book to read for homework or something, you just kind of expect them to get on with it. Maybe depending on their educational needs, you might just think, it's okay. I don't need to sort of stand over little Johnny and make him read it for me. So, and I notice especially it seems to be, of course girls can suffer with this as well, but it tends to be a lot of boys that seem to hide it more. Maybe it doesn't get picked up as much. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Is it 50-50?
Well, but it goes back to the very beginning of what my statement, and it is, you said something interesting that was some parents don't have the time to sit down and have conversations with their children. And my thing about that is you have to make that time in the beginning, especially. I remember my lovely wife, who was really at the forefront of the bringing up the boys. We read stories to them from the very beginning, and we took the time, and I would read a story, and my wife would read a story, and me being the comedic legend that I as
Did you do the voices and stuff like
right,
that?
exactly. I did the voices. So when I would read a story, we had the entire like Dr. Seuss library of books
Oh
and
yeah.
all this, and so we would read a story each night.
Huh.
And that doesn't take more than 30 minutes. Now, if the mother or father is working, etc., then you pick another time. But you have to pick times and you have to take time and you make the time
Yeah.
to be with your children. And then you will find out from the beginning if they're digesting this because they're really sponges, from the time they're young
Yeah,
up
absolutely.
until
I think as well.
5 or 6.
Yeah, don't just read to them. Read with them and
Right.
make them read to you. Because then you can see, like, okay, are they struggling with phonetics? Are they struggling with, the concepts? Like some words. Let me think. Okay, say for example, some words, some words are spelt the same, but they are pronounced differently
Right.
at different times. Like, say if someone says, "I read that book," and then someone else will, in another sentence, you might say, "Did you read that book?"
Right.
But the word "read" or "read" is spelt the same, isn't it?
Right. Right.
But
right.
but are they struggling with the knowing when to pronounce it differently or spell something differently, or there's loads of things. I mean, I'm not an English teacher, but I just see, because for me, I have to say, I love reading. I'm an avid reader. I read all sorts of stuff that I know I shouldn't have been reading. And I've already put this in the Ask Avani Show, people. I said this on Facebook this morning. I was reading things like Jackie Collins and stuff like that before I was supposed to be reading them. So I was really like, I've read anything I could get my hands on. If it was the newspapers, if it was a novel, whatever I could get, I loved reading. And I still do to this day, So to me, I can't imagine not being able to read. And I think it's going to be one of the hardest things if you are an adult and you're struggling. Please don't struggle. Please, if you know someone who's struggling with their literacy, I say, please support them. It's not funny. Don't laugh and say, "Oh, someone's dumb and stupid," because they're not.
No, it's a matter of the time that they have invested in it. It's a matter of them just really taking the time, or if they do have a learning disability, also that's
Exactly.
different. That's very
Oh,
different.
oh, definitely. I mean, when I was doing the research for this show, there was all these like articles and stuff popping up, which is what I wanted to share today, because I just thought it's a really important topic. And yes, education is important, but especially I noticed. Have you noticed this? In countries like African countries and Indian countries, they really revere education. I'm sure they obviously do around the world, but I've noticed especially those two, because I think they realize if you don't have an education, you're really going to struggle and suffer.
Right. I mean, they understand the importance of it, and that is something that we learned as we were younger. It was more importance placed on it.
Definitely.
And what I'm finding is that the older that we get, the generations, because it's just something that's a given and it's there for them and they don't have to fight for it,
Yeah.
it's a different mentality for them.
Yeah.
And that's sad
I,
to me.
I know, but see, I have to say this, right? You know, years ago, they used to say, if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book.
Right. I've heard that before.
And we're laughing now, but at the time, that was kind of true, because it was a lot of people that couldn't read because they couldn't get education. And they would say, "Oh, well, you're just stupid," or you don't want to learn to read. But that's not it. When you can't get an education for whatever reason, that can be hard. It could be, like you say, if the family's poor. Because a lot of countries, education from the very beginning, you have to pay for everything. Over here in the UK, for the most part, education is free. Obviously, once you start to get to university and such, you have to pay. Or if you want to send your child to like a special private school, or then yeah, you have to pay. But other than that, mainstream education is mostly free.
And
Yeah.
and I think it should be. And that's what, again, one of the most important things that I think has changed is the attitude toward that. Since it is free and since it is, it's wider spread than it was.
Yeah.
I think people take that for advantage. They just think that, oh, okay, I can go to school. I don't have to fight for it. And so they don't work as hard when they're there. And I really believe that. I really do.
Yeah, but that's the thing. if there's a reason why you cannot attend school regularly, you may have problems at home or something like that, then that's understandable why you might be missing out. But if you're just being lazy and you're just saying, I don't need to worry about it too much, I'm sure I'll find something, some kind of job later in life. Oh, you should take that attitude. And anyway, I'm not being funny. I love reading. So to me, reading is not just educational to learn things and find out things, but it's actually I enjoy it. It's a hobby for me.
Well, but that's something that it's a good thing, first of
Yeah,
all. And it's something that I think your children follow in your footsteps, or those people that are examples to you. And then also just within your life, that was something where I think it gave you a release from your world,
yeah,
probably. And
yeah.
so
It
it's good.
did. Definitely.
And I think people they don't understand that, a lot of the things that are just normal now, that we're taking them for granted,
Yeah.
and we're not basically understanding the importance of them as much now because they're commonplace to us now. I mean, when I was younger, there were not the opportunities to go to college and to go to good schools in the area I was in. And so
Mm.
if you were selected to go to a better high school or a more difficult science and engineering type environment, that was something you took pride in,
Oh
and you
yeah.
worked hard when you got there.
Yeah, definitely. But see, that's the thing. Education, no matter what kind of education you get, like you say, a specific type of scholarship or something, you should grasp that with both hands because that's opening the doors, opening a world of information, and you can do so much when you have an education, and just because you don't have an education, though, I must stress this, people, it doesn't mean you're stupid because we're going to talk about some people today who they especially one or two that inspired me to want to do the show because I was like, it's amazing how these people suffered and they couldn't read and write properly and they are multi-millionaires now.
Right, and in the education that you're talking about, and again, you're talking about that formal quote education.
Yeah.
People that may not have gone to university or not finished university are some of the richest people on the planet
Yeah,
right
some of
now.
them ain't even been to school probably because for whatever reason, depending if they weren't brought up in this country or they came here later, or if they went to school in this country but they just slipped through the net. And I
Right,
was just like, wow, how did you go from there, not being able to read most of your life, and yet you still managed to build a multi-million pound company and still be rich? Not saying that they didn't struggle to get there, because I'm sure they did. But that just goes to show that just because you can't read and write doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're not intelligent.
right. And I don't think, I mean, being intelligent and having the ability to
Mm.
learn is different from having formal education and going to school, et cetera. There are some people that, attorneys are some of the, by formal education means, some of the most average people on earth are attorneys.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of things they have to remember, and there are a lot of things that are related to being an attorney that they have to do, and
Mm.
that makes them one of the the good ones, of course, are
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of the most intelligent people on the planet.
Yeah, but that just goes to show it's not excluding anybody from learning how to do it
No,
if you can get the education.
not even close.
Today, people, I want to share some stories with you because when I read them or when I saw them like in documentaries and stuff on the TV, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I can't even begin to imagine what it must be like for that person because I'm very lucky. I've never had to suffer that,
And
so
that part of it is an interesting part because if you have a disability that it hampers you or hinders you from doing something, that's
mm,
also one of those things where um, you have to fight through it, and there has to be either a thirst or a reason that
mm,
you want to fight through it, or when you're younger, your parents have to be that in that position to recognize it. That's why I do, and I say blame because it is, some parents, to me,
mm.
just my, again, it's me. If I say I can't do something with my son and I consistently don't do it, there's going to be some type of a effect to that.
Oh yeah, later on, I'm sure it'll be like, oh well, he didn't get the support, so how is he? And you're the parent supposed to teach and show them, and if you're not giving them the time to learn and help them, support them to learn, then no, he's not going to be able to pick up these things. Because some children, they say, if you read to kids in the womb,